And let's also make welcome maybe a senior advocate of the rest of Nigeria.
Please celebrate the wife of God. If you want to achieve it right, celebrate the wife of God.
Please keep your hands clapping while we make welcome to the podium the Honorable Justice Ogechi Idesile, the President of the Court of Appeal. If you met her in court as a judge, please clap louder. I've had my own fair share of experience, and I think it was actually very impactful. And then the next person will be welcoming to the stage. Do we have great members in this place? Jesus, please, if you're a great member, shout great. Okay, it's so sad that we don't have a lot of them. But regardless, let us join our hands and clap for the one and only easy girl and Rachel, the managing partner, Grace Chamber, senior advocate, University of Nigeria.
Okay, at this juncture, let me see my bias. Just forgive my bias.
That's a great thing.
It's actually take 21 hours professors to retire our streets. I know that I said forgive my bias. Just forgive my bias. Forgive me, please. Online viewers, forgive my bias. At this juncture, I'd like to make for. Look, I'm the only one permitted to call out like this name, but today, we are just ready. Somebody say Mama Lingo. Somebody say Mama Lingo. Please let's move on. Carry Joyce.
Hello everyone. Why are you not responding? I know a lot of you waited for this session. Am I correct? Yeah. Because a number of people have come to ask me, oh, when is the academic session? And yes, the time is now. Now let me tell you something very briefly. When I was in 200 level, I attended my first clerical corner and I came with a note. How many of you have a note here? Okay, so I need you to take down the tips that these guys are going to be giving out today. These people are some of the best brains that you have in this faculty. So believe me, they have a lot to tell you today. They are going to be giving you practical, tips that will work for you. So the theme of this session is demystifying academic excellence and handling failure. Right, so we're going to go straight because we don't have a lot of time. The first question will be directed to Halechi, Justice Ogechi. So now, what strategies do you recommend? I mean, this is someone that is not only good academically, but is very, very versatile with a lot of extracurricular activities. So what strategies do you recommend for effective time management? Both your academics, your extracurricular activities, and then your personal life.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here, and I like to keep my things brief, straight to the point, and hopefully in such a way that you will have something to take home. So to answer your question, the strategies that one can effectively utilize, while it might vary from individual to individual, but there are certain general qualifications that one has to have to effectively manage your time. I like to tell people that yes, you are in school to get a good CGPA, get good results, but at the end of the day, your extracurriculars is almost as important as your CGPA. It's not more important, please. I'm not even going to lie and say you should leave your room and start chasing positions. But you find out that at the end of the day, the experiences gather while you are engaging in these activities might just be that thing that would help you stand out in future, even while in school. Maybe when you're applying for an internship, when you're going for an interview, that is what will help you stand out. So the first thing on my list is prioritization. Know what is important to you. Have a list of what you should do, when you should do it. Be very strict with your time management. I am as strict as possible with my time management. I don't get a journal to list out things I will do every day, but I know that if I'm to do this, I get it done immediately. I try as much as possible not to procrastinate, although my story, that line, I'm still struggling to maintain it. But one thing I would say is, as much as possible, prioritize what is important to you. Always try to network, build yourself, build your personal experience, build your professional experience. And when you do this, you find out that at the end of the day, you've come very far. This thing is not something that you learn in a day, in a week. But over time, when you practicalize these things, you find out that you have actually that you have come a long way from maybe where you were in the future. So always be very strict with your time management. I have this thing that I use, time quotient, on how to manage my time, my personal life, my academics, and my extracurriculars. So you categorize them on what is urgent and what is important. The urgency and importance of it. If it is very urgent and very important, you get to go about. If it is urgent or it's not important, and you can find a way to go around it. If it's not urgent or it's important, you can also find your way around. So that quotient has really helped me a lot of times. I also try as much as possible to allocate time to whatever I'm doing, particularly my academics. I'm very interested in my academics. So I like to dedicate time to read. I don't say, okay, I'm going to read for 2 hours today. I'm more result oriented. So I'm going to read 1 chapter today. I'm going to read 5 chapters today. And I stick with it and I finish it. And then when I'm done, I have time for my extracurriculars and I go ahead. So I don't know if I was really clear with that, but you have to be very strategic about prioritizing and finding a balance. It might vary from individual to individual. You may be strong here and not so strong here. So it's now up to you to maximize your strength. Where are you strong at? Where are you weak at? How do you improve your weakness? How do you ensure that you're not losing out in both areas? Because trust me, all of them are very important to your overall personal, professional, and career development. Thank you.
Beautiful. I hope you guys put some of those things down. I just want to say, right, being in school can be very, very hectic, especially if you decide to be a 360 student. That's the theme of this edition, right? Now, we're talking about highly effective people. I'm going to recommend 2 books. If you're a reader and you want to learn how to maximize your time, and this works for pretty much everything we've discussed today is all about balancing, right? So it works for your academics, it works for your business, it works for leadership and all of that. Most of you have been engaged in these 3 areas, right? So the first one is the 7 habits of highly effective people. It was written by Steve Covey. The time quotient that she talked about, that was what reminded me of this book, is actually contained in that book too. So when you get to there are so many strategies that are embedded in it that you can use that will help you with time management, basically. Then another book that is very, very powerful, especially for procrastinators. If you're someone that you don't get things done on time, you're always procrastinating, you should maybe look at Eat That Frog. That's the book by Brian Tracy. So these 2 books would really help you when it comes to focusing, prioritizing, maximizing your time, and then being very effective. Right, so but then going on, since we are talking about challenges that have to do with procrastination as a student, especially when it comes to academics, I'm going to ask the next question from my left side. This question will go to Ivy. Right, so the question says, how can students overcome academic challenges such as procrastination procrastination, lack of motivation, or fear of failure. Are these things that any of you can identify with? So yeah, you should listen very well. Okay, so it says, how can students overcome academic challenges such as procrastination, lack of motivation, or fear of failure?
Thank you so much. I think Ogechi has handled a part of procrastination, because whenever you talk about procrastination, it also has to do with time management. It's not like they are not, they are like correlatives, I think, because when you manage your time properly, you are not procrastinating. Because when you manage your time properly, you know when you're meant to be and you stick to that. So when you talk about procrastination, it's like the opposite of proper management of time. And another thing that works with procrastination, or another thing procrastination can stem from is indiscipline. So for you to avoid procrastination, you have to be disciplined. That's one strategy that can help you. Apart from time management, you have to be very disciplined. And discipline is a thing of the mind. I think this is not something that is not, it can be a challenge. That is the truth. To be disciplined, you have to be making conscious efforts that you do this. So you need to be accountable to yourself to be disciplined. And when you are disciplined, you see that you do not procrastinate. But going to the main, I think procrastination is an academic challenge, but I'm going to the main role that I think are very, very fundamental. That is lack of motivation and fear of failure. Why didn't I say procrastination? Why don't I think procrastination is a big academic challenge? This is because I know that many people do things last minute and they still miss them. So while some people believe in doing things early, some people procrastinate and still get the job done. So basically, different things work for different people. But now going to this lack of motivation and fear of failure. Lack of motivation, personally, I feel like lack of motivation and fear of failure are very big academic challenges I have met in my journey as a law student. Some things, there are a lot of things that demotivate us as law students. I remember the panel before us, someone talked about how she saw her results in second year and knew that law was not for her and moved to business. And that's a clear example of like being motivated, basically. So these are real fears, like real things that can affect your academics. In fact, affect your desire to do well academically. So how do you handle lack of motivation? Basically, I think the first way to handle lack of motivation is to have a goal. Actually, if you set out your goals, you know what you do. Even when you're demotivated, you remember that you have a goal. Do you understand? Another thing is that when you are demotivated, you can be demotivated, for instance, for bad results, you can be demotivated for anything. When you're demotivated, look at those things that you have done previously. That is things you did when you were motivated. Do you understand? This kind, your strengths, your previous strengths can be a source of inspiration for when you have been, for low moments. Do you understand? So when you look at your previous trend, it can help you to overcome demotivation, basically. Another thing is to have a rock, a source of strength. Me, I believe in God, and whenever I feel demotivated, I always say that I go to the person I go with when I'm happy, when I'm sad. That is God. So when I'm happy, when I'm motivated, I go to God. When I'm demotivated, I still go to God. So you should have a source of strength. I recommend God. So that is another way I handle
demotivation. And now, as I'm here on the podcast, I also talk about the other challenge, fear of failure. Fear of failure is real. Sometimes we feel, I don't know if any other person has experienced it, but I feel like sometimes I feel like it's better for me not to write an exam than to write an exam and fail. Fear of failure is real. But and I know people are quick to say that you can't see how well you pay if you do not do it. But I know sometimes, like, has anybody here ever done, let me say, a competition and you didn't qualify or you didn't pass? Has anybody ever done that? Then, let me say, 2 months later, another competition like that comes out and you say, I'm not going to apply. Has this ever happened? So this is a real thing. And this also very closely related to demotivation. Do you understand? So basically, I think the seeds I gave for getting your motivation back also works for fear of failure. But still, fear of failure is something that is very real. You should understand whenever you are. One of the first ways to overcome fear of failure is to understand that that is what you're going through. You just know that. You have to know that this is, and I've given you one to go. Oh, I'm not applying for this, I may not do it. Oh, I don't write this exam. I shall not just fail. These are real symptoms of fear of failure. They even come out in minute form, in more minute form. But whenever you feel this fear, remember tips I just gave. What's your source of strength? Remember what I should do about strength and other people.
Thank you so much. It's a round of applause. I think one of the key things I got from what she said is self-discipline. Self-discipline is one of the highest forms of mental strength because it basically means operating or working above your feelings. Like, I'm sure there are many times many of us you don't feel like continuing, you don't feel like reading, you don't feel like doing one of the things, but because you have that discipline, you just sit down and then get things done. Now, how many of you know how powerful your mind is? The mind is extremely powerful. There was something Alvina said, she's supposed to be on this panel, but she has something else to do. Said yesterday, for those that were around Pastor said yesterday, about how she had to speak to herself and just tell herself, look, you're very smart and you just have to do it. And I think that it works. When you're able to convince yourself about something, it won't take a lot of time. You soon start seeing the results, right? So I need every one of us to be very conscious of who you are and then train your mind to submit to, like, make sure that you are one in control. When you say I'm going to get this thing done, you set a timeline and you get it done. Another thing that I really talked about was goal setting, and it's very important. I remember there was something someone taught me when I was in the first year, and I want to reiterate it, about every semester, write down the grades that you want for that semester, and then work towards. Just waking up every morning and you look at your wall and you're saying, oh, I want to make this in the system, I want to make this in the good method. It gives you this extra boost. When you see it, you're like, this is my goal, and I'm working towards it. Right? Do you understand? Are we together? Yes. Okay, very good. So now, before we go to the next question, I want somebody randomly, I don't want anybody's name, to tell me one course, we're all students, right? Or majority of us, that has given you the most headache, or that gave you a certain type of fear. Before the exams, we were already very scared of this course. Anybody? Choose your manita. And Emeka, you tell me the course and why you were so afraid. Can you come up? Very quickly. So we address the next question.
For me, it was my second year. I'm entering third year
now, my second year of contract, it was like, I felt like I could faint, I could feel the air while writing that exam. Just majorly was because of what I had heard before entering second year. Everybody was like, you know, father this, father that, father this, father that, law of contract, law of contract. So when I came and I resumed late, and our first semester we had an issue because father told us to read the tutorial questions, and I crammed the tutorial questions and the answers. And that was what I read. And then I don't know if there's a demon behind this contract, but every contract exam there is always no light for like 2-3 days before it. First semester there was no light for 4 days. Second semester there was no light for 2 days. So that time my phone was dead. I just crammed the tutorial questions, went into the hall. The questions I saw were not what I saw in the tutorial questions, and the answers I gave, I'm even ashamed that maybe when father is back, was like, Jesus, who's this girl crying out loud? And the result was actually okay, but I know it was one exam that really, even this second semester, let me use that round up, I slept from 9, I read throughout the day because of the fear of first semester. I slept from 7 p.m, woke up, I was so scared that I would not wake up to my alarm, but I didn't fear, I just woke up. You know, when you have a bad dream, and then from that time, my eyes would not close because of the fear, it was so. And then second semester, to clear up was better.
Thank you so much, Chisholm. Thank you for sharing that experience. How many of you can relate to that? How many of you can relate to that? I think everybody here can. If no course has ever given you sleepless night, then maybe you're not really interested, or you should be on this panel, you're talking to us. Right, so that is the next question, and this question is going to slightly simple, right? It's a bit similar to what I said, but now it's more focused. From what Chisholm said, the first thing I picked out was her fear started from what people told her about contracts. Someone had already, said, father is this, father is that, course is like this, course is like that, and that sown seeds of fear. And I just want to say, be very careful who you meet to tell you what about any course. Know the people that you're going to, right? So that you don't set yourself up before it's time. So statistical, how can students overcome the fear of failure and adopt a growth mindset? We want just very straightforward tips. How do they overcome this fear of failure? When someone is in a situation like Chisholm, what should you do in that kind of situation?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I want to really appreciate the members of this particular seminar by inviting me to this panel. And in response to the question asked, how can students overcome the fear of failure and adopt a great mindset in their academic pursuits? Now, first of all, you ask yourself, what primarily instills fear in students? From my experience, one thing I know is that crash reading is one of the potent ways by which fear will enter a particular student in a situation where they are facing exam maybe a week or a first time. So the most potent way to actually overcome fear is to start doing on time. Now, you see, most times when a semester starts, most students will academically academics. You see some people be like, I'm not even going to class for that first 1 week. That one because of the introductory class. But at the end of the day, that introductory class is the foundation upon which everything is built. So you see, there are some courses that if you miss the very first day of the lecture, you will find it difficult to cope till the day of exam. Something happened in our landlord when we were in 14. The first day the lecturer came to class, he mentioned something. And that particular thing came as a 30 massive piece in the exam. He didn't mention it again throughout that particular semester. You get it? So you see that, first of all, if you're in that particular situation, you've gone to write that particular piece. You didn't attend maybe the first class, maybe you started attending from the second week or something. You saw a person that had never been contemplated in class. You didn't know that on the very first day of the lecture, he mentioned something like that. Of course, the fact that he didn't write when he liked the masterpiece, already fears many people, and fear grows. You get it? So, in my own opinion, with the advantage of hindsight, right, I can see that one of the mechanisms to overcome fear, especially the fear of examination. You know that particular situation where you feel like you wish that perhaps what happens instead of this example. The what causes that particular stuff is unpreparedness. You get what basically instils that unpreparedness is accumulation of backlogs. You see, you get to a point where you lose as if that truth. You get to a point where you lose as if the whole world is basically crumbling up in your head. What causes that particular stuff is first unpreparedness, and what causes unpreparedness is the result of backlog. And what basically causes backlog is like a basic attitude towards when the semester starts. Of course, we'll finish a session, and in the next few weeks or in the next month, a new session will come aboard. You see, most people don't know resume 1 month after classes are started. And you see, at the end of the day, during the exam, they will be having these particular reputations. I don't want to feel. But the funny thing is that if you actually started reading on the very first day lecture at your class, if you start following him all back to back, because I don't know, maybe by now the academic calendar will start to organize. You get it? So you see, lecturers usually run with speed. You get that? If you like, okay, I will leave this class, maybe tomorrow, let me rest. Tomorrow, after tomorrow's class, I will read up. That tomorrow, you may come out to chapters. And you'll be wondering what's happening. Since I just started, I have already finished 3 topics. You get it? So before you start going back to chapter 1 and start reading, and start accumulating and understanding what the lecturer is saying, you see that they will announce quizzes. So you have to leave what you are doing and start reading for quiz. Before you know, everything is mumbled up. And that particular situation, there is no way you can avoid being afraid. You understand? So the most important thing that as a diligent student should do is that you don't ever put yourself in a situation where you have backlogs. Because at the end of the day, it will be difficult to create those backlogs. You get it? So that's what I have to talk.
Thank you so much. But as he was speaking, I was just saying, in fact, that is correct. I mean, I hope you guys are taking things down because you need them and you need to run with these things, right? Okay, so we need to move very, very fast. I want to go to the law instead to teach us, right? This guy here, his middle name is Balance. I don't even know how he does it, but I mean, he's going to share some tips now. So, the law, can you share some tips, right, for effective study habits? You know, how they can read and read effectively. You know, there are people that read, they are literally in Costa Rica in 1 day. And it's as if there's not essential. Means your reading is not effective. So that's what we want to talk about now. So what are the tips for effective study habits and techniques to maximize learning and retention? How do I read and then remember what I read? How do I read effectively?
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Thank you for having me here. So my love for the academia started when I was in second year. At that time, I watched a movie, Give Dead Hands. I know most of you must have watched the movie. So a consultant doctor was telling the residents that the brain of an old woman, part of the brain, that when you remove it can recall everything that has happened in her life. So I was like, wow, so the brain can really do that. So from there, I started working hard and smart. So what I usually do is that, let's say I'm in first year and I'm about to enter second year. What I do is that I meet students in third year and I ask them about their lecturers. The lecturers have taught them. What does this lecturer want? Does he prefer cases to sections? What important thing does he, want? Then after that, I go to, make my own personal notes. So in these notes, I don't write everything. I believe everything we study in law borders on principles. So what I do, for instance, when I was in second year, I'll pick my thoughts. I start with the 4 key courses. I'll pick my thoughts. I'll go to negligence, write all the principles in negligence. Then I'll write, as I'm writing a principle, I'm writing a case. So when I'm done with that particular topic or with that particular course, I read it over and over and over again until everything is set. So now, when lectures start, this is before school resumes. So now, when school resumes, what I do is that the lecturer is teaching us, I try to know whether the lecturer has written an article on a particular topic. So if he has written an article, we get to pick some of his, some of the terms he used in his article. Things that when the lecturer sees it in exams, he will be so impressed. So there are times that, when you keep reading this, so you start with, let's say, you put a principle, 3 cases, and in those 3 cases, maybe there is a locus classicus, you just give one word so that you remember what happened by this. For instance, the local Stevenson, you can just put eggshell, you can just put snail, you get. So when you are very sure that you have crammed everything on your notes, you start adding more pieces. So before you know, there are times that you can move up to 40 cases in just one question. Yes, it is that good. So you need to work hard. So another important thing is that you need to also have study groups. Maybe some of these study groups do not work for you, but study group has helped me in this school. So there are times that certain things you don't really understand them, and when you go to study group, you get to meet people who explain those things to you better. By study group, I don't mean that you should meet all your friends, people of like minds, and form a study group. You need to also maybe find people who you feel they are more serious about their academics than you. I know that every exams I always meet Ivy, I always meet Alvina, I always meet them to ask them of their personal notes because I mostly don't come to classes sometimes. So there are things that the lecturer might have said, you get to see to their notes and you add with what you have. Perfect. So that's what works for me.
I was just telling my co-partner to say that for us, we'll use this one in law school, it's too late. It's too late. But it's not late for you. You guys are very young. This thing that you talked about, the case and having something to remind you, it works like mad. What I found that it works. If you've not tried it before, try it. And I hope you were taking down the tips that he gave. These things are very, very important because it's not about reading the lines in your text. Your reading has to be effective for you to pass well. So you have to read and you have to retain and you have to be able to write it down. The next question I want to ask is about okay, this is Alosh wants to add something very briefly to what.
Thank you. The law has said everything, I mean, but there is something that I do not know. I think it's really going to help, but not everyone is aware of it. Teaching. Everyone is not a teacher, yes, but you find out that when you're speaking to someone on something, you retain it faster. I would not call myself a good lecturer or a good teacher or whatever. But anytime that my friend asks me, okay, do you understand this principle? Explain it to me. I may not know it, but then I'll open my note and look at it. For me to teach her, I have to understand. So it would really help you because you find that you may cram the principle and go to the exam hall and you forget one word and everything has left your head. I know it has happened to all of you. If it has not happened to you, then you must graduate with 6.0 over 5.0. We cram a lot in all our here, but understanding is something that is very vital. Even when you forget the exact word that was used in your notes that you read 50 times. Because you have an understanding of it, you can say something sound, and the best way to get that understanding is to teach. I remember during company law first semester, some of my classmates formed a study group for us to teach ourselves company law, because company law is something that everybody it's very bulky. So I was given a topic to teach, but unfortunately I was unable to. But because I was preparing myself to, give discussion to tell them, okay, this is what the law says, this is what the law says, it stuck to my head, surprisingly. And even when I went to the exam hall and what I was banking on did not come out, because I had read that topic with the intention to teach. I did not teach you, but I read it with the intention to teach. It improved my understanding, and I was able to write something useful in that exam. So I would really advise you to, as much as possible, teach someone. You don't have to come to your class and organize tutorial. When you get to your hostel, ask your classmate, have you read this thing? No. Let me tell you about it. So what happened in this case is that you are having a discussion, it will enter your head and everything will speak. So I hope this helps. That's just for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So you guys please teach other people. So now how many of us agree with me that exam, right, is not the truest test of knowledge? What reflects in your grades is not evidence for what you have in your head. So it means that, but unfortunately, the school system works with examinations, right? And that's how you're graded as a student based on what you write on each sheet of paper. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. If you want to see test of knowledge, participate in ONSBA and see people that actually know these things, right? So I want to ask a question, because I realize that the problem that a lot of students have is not reading. They read, they study, but they don't know how to write exams. You don't know how to write to pass, because there are techniques, there are strategies that you must, to pass your exam well. So I'm going to ask direct question to Ma Alvina. She was the academic coordinator of class, and I believe she will be able to address it very well. How do you pass an exam effectively beyond reading? What are the things that I need to do to make an A in any course?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. That question is not an easy one. I don't think there's any formula to passing an exam. And when I say passing, I mean getting an A. I don't think there's any strict formula. What works for me might not work for you. I mean, in my 100 level, I used to go for 90 marks, and I was proudly deceiving myself. Because if I come to first Paris, I was still forward through. And when I'm coming back, visitors will see me and say, BGS, I did not read anything. But then it works for Isidore. It works for a good number of people, but it did not work for me. And I had to re-strategize after first year. And I think since first year, I have never gone for 90 marks, except maybe I was having chambers meeting all the time. So yeah, the point I'm trying to answer with this is that the methods are relative. But then I'm going to be saying what works for me. It might work for you, it might not. But just try to take out one or two. So personally, from experience, I believe in smart work. I don't believe in hard work. Hard work pays, but you need to be smart. So, let me take out a course and use it as an example. So say constitutional law, you're preparing for an exam. Now, smart work promotes the fact that from the beginning of the semester, you have been attending classes. If you've not been attending classes, you've been getting information from those that have been attending classes.
There are people that don't like classes, they don't function well in class. They don't need to attend class to pass. But then you cannot eat your cake in an institution of learning and have it. So if you know you're that type that don't like attending classes, do well, like the law said, to get notes from people that attend classes. Because take it or leave it. I believe that 60% of what comes out in the exam was said in class. So that is where your smart work begins. I won't say it begins from reading before resumption. I do not open my books before resumption. I rest. Like I said, I don't like that book. So I'm not like Chef that reads before resumption date is out. That's how I want to go. So yeah, but once lectures begin, I try to keep up. Even if I'm not reading every day, I make notes every day we have class. So you could choose to read every day if you're not sure to make a note. So yeah, hard work begins, smart work begins from there. Then another thing is past questions. I don't think you can pass a law exam without going through past questions. Not necessarily because the lecturers will repeat the question, but just to get an idea of how your exam question will be. I don't know if you understand. So you need to go through past questions to see how these lecturers think, how they plan to confuse you. Do you understand? Now, going through past questions can also prove to be effective for lecturers that repeat questions. There are some lecturers in this faculty, they just reproduce the questions of the last set for the new set. For instance, contract. Once you attempt case tutorial questions, I think you're good to go to a large extent. Now, after past questions, we're looking at cramming. You need to cram. If you're part of the people that say, I need to understand, if you come to final year, you cram. You don't need to there was a full sentence I wrote in company law, and I did not understand that sentence. I just crammed it under Akachi's part. I did not understand, but now I understand it. But at the time, I was just cramming because that lecturer, she wants you to give her what she gave you. So just listen, be very submissive to your lecturers, please. Okay? Now, this is outside the example. These are things you do in preparation for exams. Discussion. It remains 2 points. Discussion. You need to have discussions. It's either you're teaching or you're listening. Either one or it helps. Land law second semester, I'll continue to say it. It's what Isidore told me we're standing when we were calling me. It's what equity was saying. That was what I wrote for Dr. Watu. So you need to engage in discussions. Either you're the one teaching or you're the one listening. Just do something to your effective memory. And finally, in the exam hall, you need to be, what's the word? You need to be very smart. Most people read, but they go to the exam hall and they do well. It's not because they didn't do the work, it's because in the exam hall they were not smart. You have to ask and answer the questions. How are you approaching sharing your time? Do you spend up to 1 hour on the lecturer's part, then start rushing for the other lecturers? You need to be very smart. Start with where you have the most strength. When I get to the exam hall, I start with a question that I know how I can get say 20 or 21 in that question. So you start with your best, you give it your all, while being conscious of time. While being very conscious of time. Don't spend so much time in the lecturer's part because you're trying to pour out everything you do for that lecturer. This is why you need to practice
to ask questions. So you gauge your time. I believe if you do these things and some of the other things that you say, you'll be able to make an A or do your best in making an A in your courses. Thank you so much. So, because we don't have time, there's a lot to say on that, right? I just want to add that you should also remember that every lecturer has what works for them. Beyond what works for you and everything. Every lecturer, most lecturers, have a particular way that they want their questions to be answered. Somebody like Professor Amos, there's nothing you write. If you don't use the method that is given to you, you can't make an A in that place. Somebody like Father will give you tutorial questions and will answer some of them in class. If you write something different, you're not going to make an A. It's as simple as that. Do you understand? So that's why I think, as Shelley said, it's very important for lecturers that I don't remember to say to your class, speak to senior colleagues. Ask them what was the lecturer like, how was the lecturer do things, and then make sure that you adapt that. Then the last thing is to pray. Trust me, there's a lot that can happen. Sometimes you actually wrote well and you deserve an A, but you did not make an A because one thing went some other way. And these are things that you might not be able to control. So it's very, very, very important for you to always pray after writing an exam. And also keep in mind what Alvina said about time management in the exam hall. Make sure that you have portioned your time beforehand and stick to it. Okay, so to wrap this session up. To wrap this session up, I'm going to ask the last question. This is the second part of our theme, and thank you.
That's a very good question. So this is the second part of the theme, and it's about handling failure. So I'm going to give an opportunity to two persons to speak about it, and 1 minute is 1 minute, right? So the question is, what are some common misconceptions? What are some common misconceptions about academic failure, and how can we dispel them? You can tell us one each, then we are done with the session. Alvina and Alechi. One misconception about failure and how we can dispel them. Okay, I think I'll state two. I'll be very brief. So the first misconception is that failure defines your intelligence. I think that has affected a lot of people and their progress, their academic progress in school here. So the fact that you put in the effort and your grades came out, but it's not corresponding with the effort that you put in, doesn't mean that you're not intelligent. Doesn't mean that you didn't do your best. Do you understand? That it doesn't go to say that there is no room for improvement, but don't cancel yourself. Don't cancel yourself at any point. Don't feel like you don't deserve it. In fact, I don't think this day is for me. Don't ever say such things by yourself. So, yeah, like Joy said, there are different factors. That's why prayer is important. When I put in the effort, and at the end of the day, your grades are not corresponding, it doesn't mean you're a failure. I feel like what makes you a failure, and assuming nobody's a failure here, but what makes you a failure is the fact that you experience these downsides and you don't get up. That's what makes you a failure. So the fact that you're able to rise after your downsides or your backside shows that you are smart, you're intelligent, and you're a successful person. Secondly, very briefly, one misconception of failure is the fact that you only fail academically when you make an F. If you have that mindset as a student, I can safely call you a failure. You feel like once you make an F, that's the only time you fail. You see a C, you're saying, thank God, at least something failed. You see a B, hey, God, thank you. I know this boy failed. Thank God I did not fail. The moment you start seeing grades like C and B as failures,
you start to condition your mind rightly. So you get a B and you are sad. You shouldn't be happy. Whether you wrote well or the exam was tough, you got a B, you shouldn't be happy that you got a B. It doesn't speak well of you academically. I'm not saying you've had B's, you've had C's. I'm not saying it is impossible for you to have B's and C's. But those are not things you should be proud of. At all times, aim for A. At all times, if you don't make an A, beat yourself to it. If you don't beat yourself to it, you make less. Do you understand? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marvina. I'm not going to end of this session. We've extended our time. Just so that we're not going to do last word. I hope you took everything that has been said down. Time, effective time management, tips on how to retain most of these things that you read, how to spell common misconceptions and failure. And I just pray for everybody that as you apply these tips and any other one that you get, that God Almighty will bless the works of your hands in Jesus' name. Thank you so much for having me.